Hi guys, welcome back to Hull and Back podcast. Today I'm joined by William Young and Nathaniel Whittor. You're probably wondering where Ant or Joel is. A little bit tied up tonight, so second time on the podcast, and here I am. So first of all, I would like to start by saying thank you to the sponsors. First, what I'm going to mention is Hull City Retro. Hull City Retro make phenomenal replicas of Hull City shirts. Whether they can go back as far as the 80s, I believe. Is that right, guys?
So far, they've gone about that far back, yeah.
Yeah, so some phenomenal stuff. And I know some of the guys in the team's already got some, and there's a lot across the social media network as well, and the fan base. I'm seeing a lot of them pop up on Twitter and stuff like that. So please do look out for them, and if you do, make a little purchase. The second one we want to speak about is Hull Badge Man. As you know, these are the guys that stand outside the stadium on the way into the grounds, and they're basically selling badges. As you can appreciate, during the pandemic, they wasn't able to do that. So they are on the up now, so it'd be brilliant if we could all pull together and help out there. Third one being the FIFA Factory. Myself at the helm of that. Basically just, if you enjoy playing FIFA, reach out to us. We play a non-toxic style. So basically get involved. Coming up tonight, we've got a review of Hull v QPR, and then we'll be previewing Hull v Derby, and then we're going to finish off on a bit light-hearted and have a nice little chat about Tom Huddlestone, who's returned. Tommy.
Get fucking in.
Tommy Huddlestone.
So happy.
Without going into it too far, what's your guys' thoughts on the return? I'm going to go for a big thumbs up, right?
Oh.
All right. It's all right. It depends.
We'll save it for later.
So we'll start off by reviewing the game of Hull v QPR. Now, my personal opinion on this is it was a bit of a flattering scoreline for QPR. Felt like it was in the game for a lot of the time, and we was unfortunate, maybe not to lose, because they might have edged it, but to not at least score one or two, I think. But what do you think, Will? What was your thoughts?
Similar echoes to yours, obviously, saying during the game, City were good. To be fair, if you'd have seen just the scoreline, you'd have thought, City were rubbish, they got hammered. It got a red card, simple as, got what they deserved. But the actual game itself was more than that. It's like you say, City, before it was at 0-0, City had a couple of chances and looked really good. And it was a couple of set pieces that City just completely switched off on. That completely changed the game for them, because they didn't play badly, and QPR for the most part were kept at bay to an extent. It was just these set pieces that killed it, and as soon as Moncur got sent off, it was game over pretty much. I thought, like you said, I think QPR probably did edge it anyway, but 3-0 is definitely a scoreline that doesn't tell the whole story.
Exactly, and I think when we mentioned the set pieces, it's easy to say that we was maybe a bit sloppy at the back, but you've also got to give a little bit of credit to QPR coming to us away from us and trying something like that, because it's not easy to off a set piece like that. Don't get me wrong, the shots maybe could have been better dealt with, and there's a deflection and stuff like that. But end of the day, they've tried something that's worked, and we kept them at bay in open play up until we were down to 10 men. So we've got to give credit to that, because as a new team coming up, playing against a team who's picked for being one of the playoff favourites, it's a great shout to be able to be that far into the game without conceding many opportunities in open play. So, what about you, Nathaniel? What do you reckon? What did you make of it?
Well, it was a different sort of opponent to Preston, because they were. I mean, I said on the podcast that they're just average, and we showed them to be average. But QPR are like a solid, well-drilled side with good players, and Johansson in the midfield was possibly their best player, or one of them. Every time he got on the ball, and the rest of them as well, they just controlled the game really well. So perhaps not in like our tactics or anything, it looked like we were a division apart, but with how well QPR controlled the ball and the game overall, and used set pieces to their advantage like we did last year, I think it showed that they were a step up in class in some ways. And it was disappointing to lose 3-0. I don't know whether we deserved Definitely not to win, and I don't know about a draw. I think QPR perhaps would have won the game anyway, but there weren't. I don't remember Ingram having to make too many difficult saves. There was one with his foot later on, but generally, I thought we controlled. Well, although QPR had maybe used the ball better, we weren't terrible. 3-0 definitely flattered QPR. So although we lost 3-0 and conceded and that sort of thing, I'm not too concerned at how the game went. I think there were not lots of positives, but certain players looked decent. And one of the things I was most impressed by was, they had Dykes up front, who's this big lump, but although Reeves and Jones are young players and inexperienced, they handled all the long balls in the box and up front really well. And it was along the ground for the set pieces that we actually got done by. So,
exactly.
It's not, just those are strong, solid centre backs we've got, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I honestly couldn't agree more with it. There was a point I was going to make then. I didn't make that. I was talking. You went, and then one more thing. I was like, I'm going to lose this.
I think we probably went looking like the better, but I think when Smith had his chance at 1-0, that was cleared off the line. That was the point of any of them. That was the point, because I think if that goes in, we might have, because we was in the ascendancy anyway. We might have gone on to win it. But I agree with you for the most part. Apart from that, they were probably the better side. But it's a case of not taking your chances when you have them, and the opponents doing that.
I think you nailed it perfectly there in terms of we had the opportunity to score at what would have been the perfect times, just like QPR did, and they took their opportunities. We didn't. We had an opportunity to go 1-0 up. We had a chance to equalise, and if we'd have equalised, could have had another chance to go 2-1 up. The way the game was going, but it didn't work out that way. And unfortunately, that is the nature of the game at this level. I think one of the best things I saw online was someone said that's the most I've enjoyed a 3-0 defeat, because we didn't look like without a place. We didn't get dominated. We played worse and had a better scoreline in the past. So
it might have been me who said that.
Yeah, it could.
Most have enjoyed a defeat, because the horrible cliche thing to say at the moment on all these podcasts is, it was great to be back in the ground, and it was, because it's true. It would have been nice to see a score after so long, but we were close. And just want to touch on Longman's debut. He was okay. He had some nice dribbles, but the main thing about Longman was that when he came off and we brought Matt Smith on, that was when we looked way better. Yeah, not necessarily because Longman was bad, but I think it just having Smith in the midfield in his range of passing really helped. And
because
it's a shame he couldn't score.
It wasn't like for like. It was because we moved Moncaro out wide and Smith was in the midfield position instead.
Yeah. I think what I was going to go on to next was who really stood out for you. I know we lose 3-0. It's difficult to sometimes pick a player out as to who stands out in a game where you lose. But we've already mentioned this in a game where you lose and you walk away with your heads down thinking there's a lot to change, because it was a good performance besides the goals. So who really stood out for you, Will?
Matt Smith, going back to him, Matt Smith for me. Having not really seen him to that point, we obviously got a brief bit of a cameo in the last couple of games, but I thought on the ball he looked great. He looked. You'd think he was older than he is. Yeah. The way he plays, he seems to have a wise head on his shoulders.
It might be years, but you get little snippets of Phil Foden in there, don't you?
I know. I get what you're saying. He's got a similar, because he obviously he's from Man City, so he's gone through the same sort of academy and system and training. So I know what you're saying. I know you don't mean he's Phil Foden.
He's the next Phil Foden,
but he's got that technique, that similar sort of technique.
You can see that he's probably watched Phil in training and gone, that could work for me. That's a bit like me, and obviously Phil's developed that from taking little nuggets from every other players he's played with in the past as well. But what was your thoughts on the red card, Nathaniel?
I was there, and I'm not a referee, and I wasn't thinking as soon as it happened that it's a red card. But as soon as the ref blew his whistle, I knew was going off just because of like the strength of the tackle. And you've seen it lots of times before. You know, there's a player who's got the ball and he loses it perhaps when he shouldn't, and he's desperate to get it back. So you lunge in desperately, especially like 2-0 down, you're that desperation to kind of get back in the game. And he's just gone in a bit too strongly. And it's a real shame because I think he was my standout player. Maybe not lots of end product, but, you know, some of his quick dribbles to kind of get past players and like ball rolls and that sort of thing. You know, I'm amazed that he was from like Luton. You think he was from like, he's like some Portuguese, Brazilian Ronaldinho. Not quite that good, but like we're comparing our League One average players to a lot of world-class players at the moment. But that's, you know, of course, a good sign. But yeah, I thought it was a red, and it was a real shame because I thought he played not amazingly, but I think he's a very solid acquisition. It's a shame that we're going to have to, replace him because he was already a replacement for Honeyman, really, in terms of just who's playing.
I mean, me personally, I struggle with it a little bit, and I get real panicky with little bits in terms of football. So I think I mentioned this to Will at the time because Jordan Kerr at the time, he's got the ball, he's trying to break onto the edge of the box, and he's had a drag on the back of his shirt. Now that drag on the back of his shirt, he's lost a yard. So he's got to, and if he wants to win that ball, then he has to dive in for it. And no, you don't condone diving in. However, the opponents have gained an advantage from doing something with a bit of malice or dirty or however you want to word it. They've gained an advantage from that. He's then trying to recoup that disadvantage. That's the way I look at it. And I think, well, if they give that little foul first, which they didn't give all game anyway, because there seems to be this hiatus in football where it's a man's sport. You should let these little pushes and niggles and stuff like that. But you gain a massive advantage by it. And for me, that really annoyed me because as soon as the drag back's done, it should be a foul, and anything after that's null and void. Do you know what I mean? However, it can't. Don't get me wrong; it does seem like a violent challenge. And if you'd have had a big meal beforehand, you know, you could have brought up your lamb gyros or anything. So, it's one of them challenges.
I think if that happened on the edge of his own box, I'd be kind of more sympathetic. But it was the edge of the QPR box, so I think it was just sort of neat. You know, you're 2-0 down, 75th minute, was it, or 70th, something like that. He doesn't really need to do it, but I mean,
I guess it's heat of the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, one thing though that I was impressed with Moncur, that although he was playing in that 10 role or like the more attacking midfielder, he was like Honeyman last season. He was winning the ball back as well. Which was really good to see. And I think one of the main strengths last season, that the midfield tackled the ball, whereas when we got relegated, never happened, ever. They just walked through. But this year and last year, that doesn't seem to happen. And Moncur's kind of doing what Doherty and the midfield last season did so well. So that was impressive as well. But it's just a shame that it was a red card at the end.
It does great link-up play. And I think I was in one of the group chats last night, and again, you're going to laugh at the name that I'm going to compare him to. But in terms of a little bit further up, you see a lot of similar likes in terms of how Henderson plays. Do you know Jordan Henderson for Liverpool?
The work rate,
He goes under the radar, but he's a little bit further up than Jordan Henderson. So whenever someone's under pressure on the ball, Moncur is always there ready to receive a pass, which is a lot like Jordan Henderson. And then with that ball, he don't just waste it. He don't go, well, I'll take the pressure and then I'll mess it up. He looks elsewhere and he'll play a pass that even you don't see and you go, oh, well, fair play, mate. Thanks for doing that. And that is consistent. And I've only seen him play for 2 games now, but I've seen it consistent through them games. So for the next 3 games, I think he's going to be a big loss. I think he's a contender for keeping his shirt full time.
Once his suspension's over, I think he'll be back in the side.
Not a bad midfield, Foden and Henderson, is it?
No, exactly.
How did we know with them?
Look at me building a fantasy team.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Nathaniel, you also put Ronaldinho in there.
I know. That's an even better midfield, isn't it?
Very expensive.
I said McGuinness is like Benzema last week as well, I think. So it's not a bad squad.
He's our new Marlon King, isn't he? Let's be realistic. So what we've touched on already is our thoughts on the game. We basically summed it up in it. It's the best defeat we enjoyed the defeat despite the scoreline. In terms of who stood out, we all kind of went for Jordan Moncur and Matt Smith. We enjoyed them despite the red card. The thoughts on the red card is that it was a bad foul, but me personally, I'm a little bit anal on the fact that he got dragged back first. So wasn't really big on that. But the way I was going to sum up the QPR was the question for not so much who do you hate as a player, but more along the lines of who didn't perform as well as you expected or underperformed / went under the radar.
I think maybe Longman disappointed. Obviously, he had a really good pre-season, so he was pretty much most people's pick to be straight in to replace Wilkes for his injury. And I think I don't know, obviously, if he maybe suffered a bit more with COVID than McCann expected him to, and he just looked a bit leggy.
I think he had a groin injury as well.
Yeah, I think he went off with a groin injury, but he looked tired anyway. He didn't look match sharp. I don't know if I want to say not match fit, but he didn't look sharp at all. So obviously maybe Longman would be a contender, but for the full game, probably Ingram. I think the first goal was a little bit disappointing to concede. Ingram's usually quite solid in those situations. And I mean, to be fair, the entire defence needed to turn on for both the set-piece goals, and maybe he was unsighted for the first goal and being a bit harsh, but
it's a set piece, so everyone's back there. And if you see, even at 1-0 down, we've got everyone back. So the full team's got ownership there, I think.
It's always disappointing to concede a set piece where they take it quickly, because it means that they're too busy, your team's too busy looking at who should be marking who, and they're not switched on straight away as they should be. And QPR exploited that, and then we're already behind, and we're chasing the game. And that's what's happened to all three of our competitive games this season. We've gone to go down, and things like that need to stop and need to change if we're going to, take the impetus and start taking games to people. We've got to stop coming from behind and goals conceding like that, where it's sloppy and it's preventable is the main point of that one. It was a goal that shouldn't have happened and could have been stopped, and we conceded 2 of them. So do you know what I mean? It's one of them where it's not a horrible goal to concede, but it's disappointing. They'll learn from it. It's a young squad. They will learn from it. And we played well.
We said it. You've got to kind of give credit to QPR for coming away from home and testing the water with something like that. They might have tried it in the first game. I don't know because I ain't seen it. But you've got to give credit towards their initiative to try and do different things on set pieces, as opposed to let's just stay in front post, let's just stay in back post, as it perceives sometimes. But I think that between us, we've all kind of summed up the QPR game perfect there. A couple of different views, but moving on to Derby tomorrow night. There's a lot to think about with this game, because everyone's thinking, that it's going to be a walk in the park. Derby don't look up to scratch. I know Ant says a little bit different because he had the privilege of watching the game on Saturday. But starting off, Will, who comes in, completely off topic, who comes in for Moncur for you tomorrow?
Matt Smith, straight away. Matt Smith in that position, obviously he came on and went into Moncur's position in the first place. And I thought he was the best player on the pitch after that point for City.
Yeah.
It's more a case of I'd probably bring in maybe Randall Williams to play out wide. I thought he didn't get much to do at the end of the game, but his pace against him and KLP's pace against the centre-back pairing of possibly Phil Jagielka and Curtis Davis is very enticing. Because I think they're a team that can be very easily got at because they're quite an old defence. So I'd be looking to try and play as much pace at them as I could.
That makes perfect sense. Does anybody know, do they play with the 2 at the back, the 2 centre-backs, or do they play with 3? Do you know? I'm sure there are 4 at the back, aren't they?
Did they have 3 centre-backs at the club?
Yeah, they don't have enough to play 3 at the back. No, they play Nathan Byrne, who's a very good right-back, which will be a good fight between him and KLP. They've got him, and then obviously they'll have, I assume, Jagielka and Davis with Forsyth in left-back, who is another good full-back. Yeah. So, it's not a bad defence at all.
No, it's a very good experienced defence. It's just, it might be a bit slow.
Yeah. Their starting 11 isn't too bad. It's just the depth.
Exactly.
So, Kazim Richards, their one striker, got injured, so they've had to bring a new one in. So it's Sam Baldock, who's he's got 10 goals since we've been relegated from the Premier League. So I hope he doesn't score, but of course, now I've said that.
That's a guaranteed goal now.
He's going to get his first career hat-trick or something.
I mean, I called it before the QPR game. I said, I can't stand Lyndon Dykes. He was a donkey at the Euros, and then there he is. Puts that past us. So it's just the way this podcast's going to go from now on. We've got to try not to mention opposition strikers. I think that's the best thing to do. Any other changes to yourself, Anne? Would you make any other changes, judging on the performance we saw? Anybody think maybe should be given a chance? Maybe you bring Emmanuel in for Coyle?
I think Louis Coyle's probably one of our best players at the moment. He's just been phenomenal in any game he's played. He's been great. He's probably going to be the early shoo-in for player of the season so far. The thing is we've got like-for-like switches at the moment. So obviously, I'd assume Randell Williams will come in at right wing. He looked pretty good when he came on. I'd assume he'd start, and I'm excited to see him start because I think he's a different kind of winger to what we've got at the club. He's less of an inside forward and more of a creator. Exactly. So I think, the likes of McGuinness is going to profit from that more than what he would with Wilkes and Lewis Potter. I think Smith, since he came on against in the QPR game, his ball retention, his passing range is great. So the way that we want to play in our system, where we try to play it through the middle and then get it out wide, he's going to be key. I know Moncur has been great since signing, but they're completely different players. I think that's what's exciting about this midfield is that we aren't limited to, like last season it was Honeyman or Doherty. Either of them were missing. We struggled. This time we've got, the likes of Smith, who's good at retaining the ball, dictating the tempo. You've got Smallwood now, who seemed to have stepped up. He's been great since his pre-season doubts. And then you've got Moncur, who just likes to carry the ball and go. He's like another version of Doherty. You know what I mean? You've got Honeyman to come back as well. So I'd like to see Smith and Williams come in. Other than that, I wouldn't really change any of the other because they didn't play badly. Do you know what I mean? There isn't anyone who merits dropping.
That's it.
You speak about Honeyman coming back, and I can really see him coming back and playing more of a wider role, and just we saw it the first time in the Championship where he was played a lot at right wing, wasn't he? When he came in, he maybe didn't stand out, but when you see a lot of his assists from last season, they came from a wider area. Granted, he was playing central, but he found himself in a pocket of space out wide and putting a ball in, and whether it be a through ball or a whip cross like that, that's. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that was.
I think he benefits from the system that we play. When we had Wilkes and Lewis Potter as wingers, they automatically cut inside, so the width is offered by the fullback. Now, what would happen is Wilkes would go inside, be in the box, and then Honeyman and Coyle would work their own way down that wing, and then obviously that's why he'd find himself out wide because he runs from deep, and I think that's where Honeyman gets his, where he's best. Yeah. You don't want to start him out wide because I think you lose that threat. He starts in the middle, gets the ball up the pitch, and then sort of makes that run behind and receives the ball. So I wouldn't like to see him start wide, to be fair.
So, I mean, we briefly touched on this already in the final, but do you reckon Phil Jagielka is going to start? Granted, I think they only signed him yesterday, Monday.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's eligible to play. I'm sure Baldock will. Because of the Cousin Richards injury. Oh, yeah. But, I mean, maybe. But then they've not been too terrible defensively in the first two games. But they've played perhaps two of the three poorest sides in the division, and they haven't won.
That's the thing.
So, I mean, maybe. But then,
that loss,
Jagielka...
the losing goal to Peterborough was pretty... Who was it who made the error?
It was Byrne. It was that great right back, Nathan Byrne, who gave the ball straight to Dembele, who was on the bench. So, I mean, they've got good forward options if he's on the bench for Peterborough. But, yeah, either centre-back they go for, it'll be either like 33-year-old Stearman or 58-year-old Jagielka now. Is he something like that? It's just insane.
Davis is the only guarantee of the centre-backs.
He's been brilliant, by the way.
To be fair, he actually has.
He scored in their first game of the season and was one of the man of match contenders. And then the game I watched, he was phenomenal. I think he's sort of taken on that we're in a shit situation, so I'm going to take it by the scruff of its neck and lead us through it kind of thing. And I would assume he's going to start Jagielka Rooney because he needs that experience to try and help him through. He's going to want, advice and players who know what they're doing in the team, I would assume. So,
he wants as many leaders as he can as possible.
Yeah.
He was playing Premier League football last season, wasn't he? I mean, it's probably
Yeah, he was
partly,
a
It's United. Yeah.
it's probably partly why they got relegated. Like, and then the fact that they couldn't score at the other end. And just to bring you into the loop on this, we've all made one simile towards a better player for one of ours so far. I compared Matt Smith a bit to like Phil Foden. And I also did George McCare a bit to Henderson in the way he retains the ball, but a bit further up, not at the back. We're not going to get into the Henderson debate on here.
No. We'll leave that one off.
Scale on that. But if the opportunity arises where you're talking about a player, feel free to make an audacious shout as to who he reminds you of. The question to everyone, so who's going to be key to unlocking the Derby defence? We've spoken about the quality of experience that they've got at the back is going to be brilliant. So who's key for us in terms of unlocking that defence?
Anyone can run. Just
to
pace.
be fair,
I think KLP is the one.
He is, but it's getting that service into KLP, isn't it? So you got to look at your midfield. I mean, the likes of Doherty is, who doesn't really get mentioned in man of the match status, but he's always consistently one of our better players, and that's why he probably doesn't get mentioned. He's the kind of guy who takes the ball forward, and in the absence of Moncare, is probably going to prosper a bit more because then he's going to have Smith as that safety net behind him with Smallwood. So you're going to look at the likes of just whoever can supply. I mean, you're looking at Smith to do them passes in behind for the likes of KLP now, and Williams might have a good shout. To be fair, like I said, McGuinness loves them balls into the box, and Williams likes a good cross. So
I think a game like this would have suited Malik Wilks, and I'm not Malik Wilks' biggest fan because he does like to have an extra touch, and in these sort of games, you want him to kind of draw that defence out because I can imagine they're not going to be that high up; they're going to be deep, so you're going to want to draw them out, and people like Matt Smith, Malik Wilks and George McCare as well would have been brilliant in this situation. Just take a little extra touch and make the defender think, oh, I've got a chance there to take that. And that's where the windows of opportunities come from. And anything to add on that?
I think... No, go on, Will.
No, I think I completely agree, to be fair. That's probably the best way of getting through to it. Because like you said, they will play deep. I'll be surprised if they don't play deep. Because I imagine if they do play a high line, they're going to be incredibly vulnerable to our attack. So I would imagine at this moment in time, Rooney will probably be happy with a point coming away from us.
Yeah.
After how Peterborough went in particular.
Yeah.
I think he'll absolutely want to avoid defeat.
We've got to remember they've gone 1-0 up in both their games so far and lost. Drew one and lost one. We've gone 1-0 down in both ours, 1-1, lost one.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The one thing I don't want us to do is play similar to how we did on Saturday, because with them having three at the back and having a bit of a high line, we relied heavily on a bit of an over-the-top ball, not in behind, but a long ball to McGuinness. And granted, he won a lot of his aerial duels, which he didn't expect for him to be coming up against the likes of Dickey and Jordy Weiss as well, after seeing how decent he was in the air for us. We just don't want to play that style again because he will. I can't see him beating Davies and Jagielka on the regular on the consistent.
He had no support either. Yeah, he did do well in the air, but we didn't get the support. No. So yeah, I think just more pace and keep it on the ground as well, because I think last season one of our main strengths was just like with Honeyman, and moving up the right, as you said, with Coyle and that sort of thing. It's just the neat little short passes and get up the pitch, and Doherty driving forward, dribbling from one penalty box to the next rather than just lumping it. And we should have more of the ball perhaps if Derby are going to play a bit more defensively. So yeah, I think it will be a different sort of style to how he went against QPR.
I think an important thing will be keeping our heads, because from what I've seen of Derby this season is they're not playing on the front foot. We struggled last season trying to break defensive teams down. We wanted teams to come at us so we can counter-attack them. That's our strength. And I'm thinking, if you get to half time and it's 0-0 and the fans start getting a bit itchy because we've not scored a goal against this crap Derby team, etc. You know, it starts feeding onto the players. And if we go a goal behind, you know what I mean, it's going to be hard to try and recover that. I know in both the games Derby have done, they've gone a goal up and lost it or drawn it in the end. But it's another situation that you don't want to be in. So we have to start well. We have to really get at them and have them, you know, thinking, oh crap, we're going to be in for a tough afternoon here, because we can't be letting them sit behind the ball and us just play it the way that they want us to. We've got to start probing, asking questions, and then passes in behind, which I think the likes of Smith will do. Getting KLP behind and having Ben, you know, thinking, oh crap, I'm in for a tough night here.
Exactly.
Yeah. As Nathaniel mentioned earlier, their strength in depth is non-existent. So when it gets to about an hour, 70 minutes, if they are going to be playing a defensive style and we're going to be holding a lot of the ball, they're going to start to tire, and they're not going to have the replacements, you know, like to fill up the
quality replacements.
Yeah. So you'd like to. I would hope that we get something relatively early to sort of force them into being more proactive and tiring themselves out quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. We'll see that this is their fourth 90 minutes coming up in the space of 10, 11 days. So if you're using the same team in and out, there's no time for recovery in there, not to recover to 100%. You're going to be we're hopefully going to be taking advantage of some tired legs on there, much like we saw ourselves when we was in the Premier League. Steve Bruce left and we had that bare 11. So I can see some sort of signs to that, but we managed to plug on for about 5-6 games, but we didn't end up playing Saturday, Tuesday. So it'll be hopefully a little bit better for ourselves. But to sum up on Derby, the preview, what's your score prediction and goal scorer as well?
2-0 City.
Who's scoring?
McGuinness and Doherty.
Cappins?
Oh no, 30-yard thunderbolts.
Oh yeah, we're expecting that from McGuinness anyway. What about you, Anne?
I think I said on the prediction league, I went 2-1 City. McGuinness first goal scorer, Derby to bring it back, and then we'll score a winner in the second half with KLP.
So you're going against what's happened already with them always going 1-0 up and us going 1-0 down.
We're going to go 1-0 up, get pegs back, yeah.
And we're going to lose 2-1, yeah. No, so 2-1, brilliant. What about you, Nathaniel?
I think it'll be quite close. From what I've seen, maybe Derby are going to lose lots of games, but I don't know whether they're going to get battered. The problem they have is going forward, perhaps not defending. So maybe 1-0. Someone like, I mean, it'd be really nice to see a first goal from someone, but perhaps it will just be McGuinness, you know, getting on the end of Aranda Williams' cross, hopefully.
So me personally, I'm hoping for our first clean sheet, just like 2 years ago. It'd be really good for Matt Ingram because he has, despite the first goal on Saturday, he's put in a really good performance. He's made some saves that we don't expect a lot of our keepers in the past to have made, especially last year and this season so far. I'm going to go for 2-0, and I like you said, I want to see some new names on the score sheet. So it'd be nice to see Matt Smith and Randall Williams on there as well, or maybe Jacob Greaves as well. It'd be nice to see him score. So I'm happy
never going to score. Not happening. It'll be like Davis, 36, and he won't have scored.
There's a lad who sits next to me and Will. He puts £5 on Jacob Greaves to score at any time, every game. So
throwing it down the toilet.
Yeah.
Just nah.
Yeah, but it'll be worth it.
Keep your £5.
Yeah, it's a lot of money he's wasted.
We haven't had enough set pieces for him to score this season, though. We didn't have any like those in-swingers from Elder or Moncur against QPR in the attacking half. So had corners. But
I think that's a factor of Honeyman being missing. Obviously, his set piece were
because he wins them as well.
Back.
Yeah, he does win them. Yeah, and I mean, obviously Elder took some as well, and he had 9 assists for a left back, so it shows you he's fairly capable of what he's done. But Moncur, I just think set piece wise, from what I've seen from him so far, I mean, I said it to Joe when I was at Preston. Every set piece he put in the box was poor, and I don't know who we were aiming at. We were doing what Bone and Grishicki used to do. Do you know, we used to aim it at the front post every single time to the smallest player on the pitch. And it just
amazing players, but they could not take set pieces at all. Like Elder and Honeyman know what they're doing, but yeah, Moncur's there if you want to shoot from one. whereas Elder and Honeyman, they get the assists.
I'd assume Smith will have a good set piece on him.
Fingers crossed.
Well, Doherty had some. Doherty did some at Shrewsbury, and we've never given him a chance. So maybe with Moncur out, and I don't know who's going to be taking them from the right. So maybe give Doherty a go.
I think they like Doherty to linger on the edge of the box for a rebound, though, don't they? For his shot, for his long range shooting.
So that sums up QPR. It's Derby, sorry. Jesus, I've done it again. That sums up Derby. I want to move on to the highlight of the week. We could win 5-0 tomorrow, 10-0 tomorrow, but the highlight of the week is always going to be Tom Huddlestone coming home. It's got to be. He's come back, and you can see online it's already brought a great moment. It's brought everyone together, and we've finally got the man we've wanted since the moment we found out who's training with us again. I mean, some of us wanted him last season. So I'm going to go around. I'm going to ask this question to you all one at a time, and I think we're all going to have the same answer. Will, what's your favourite Tom Huddlestone moment?
The haircut.
Yeah.
It was close though. It's close between two. It's either that or the goal against Sheffield United.
Oh, that was mine. Well, thanks for having two, mate. I appreciate that, because now we've all got to dig deep into the archive now. Think of a better moment. So I think
you can repeat.
It was Fulham, wasn't it? It was Fulham in the 6-0.
Yeah, it was the 6-0 over Fulham.
Yeah. What a day that was. What a day.
All goals in the second half.
Yeah, exactly. And what about you? Thinking back to it, we just mentioned yours there with the Fulham goal.
Yeah, mine was the Sheffield United one. I think it was. We're not used to seeing Huddlestone move like that. He rounded their defender, and I think that moment was where we won it. Wasn't it? The euphoria when he scored that goal. And with it being Huddlestone as well, it was just, and being at Wembley, the occasion, FA Cup semi-final, it was just, I mean, I loved the goal at Fulham, and his performance at Fulham, to be fair, was brilliant. You remember the free kick he tried from like 40 yards and hit the bar?
And Fryer putting the rebound.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's just got phenomenal technique with that sort of drilled shot that he does from range.
It looks like it goes so slow, but it's so drilled, isn't it?
It's just, I don't know how he wraps he's just sort of laces, he knuckleballs it almost, doesn't he? And it just stays at the same trajectory. It don't go higher or lower. It just bullets in. But that Sheffield United goal, I think, is my favourite.
What about you, Nathaniel?
Yeah, I think it's the same. I mean, that goal was, because Sheffield United were defending really well in that game, and we just needed that a bit of quality that they didn't have. And he took the game in his own hands. I thought, like, we're scoring here. Great 1-2 with another City legend, David Myler, who we'd love to have back as well. But yeah, and hopefully if he can do that same sort of quality, just a little pass. And, he didn't need his pace for that goal because it was just perfectly weighted. I mean, it was a fantastic goal, great moment. And, he's sort of cemented himself in whole City folklore with that goal.
100%. I mean, I think there's at one point he does a little drop of the shoulder as well. And it all looks just so smooth. And we got so used to seeing him being so good with both feet. And a lot of the times when he tried his shots, it was on his right foot. And I think we can all agree a lot of them wasn't on target. But you can tell if it was on target, it was going in. But that one was a left foot curl, wasn't it, if I remember right?
Yeah, finesse.
So it was on what we thought was his weaker foot, and he's just binned it. But now I've had to dig deep into the archive. I think a little bit off topic with Tom Huddlestone, it'd be the moment he brought to us all, and it's arguably one of my best chants, and it was Tommy Huddlestone. That was a great. During the time I was going to a lot of games, home and away, and that was a regular chant throughout. So I enjoyed that moment. What do you think he's going to bring to the team, Will?
I think he's going to bring a lot of knowledge and experience of how his technique and his passing of the ball, and I think he'll do more good. I think he'll do all right if he's playing, but I think he'll do more good off the pitch than on it. I think what he brings to the team in terms of his experience already with the club, what he can teach the younger players already at the club and improve those players, I think will be incredibly vital.
Yeah,
and I mean, you can already kind of see it with some of the ways at the back. Like, I don't remember Richie Smallwood ever making a pass like he did in the Preston game ever before Huddlestone started training with us.
Back to Ingram.
Teaching a dinosaur there, isn't it? Of course they made that. What about you, Ant? What do you think he brings? Does he, and if he brings something, does he start?
Well, when we were first linked with him, there was a lot of people who said, we don't want him. He's old. He's past it. He's too slow. Which I don't know why that's ever an argument.
To be fair, the pace is a thing, but
it depends in what role you use. If you're using a midfielder that needs pace, then obviously you're not going to play Huddlestone in that role, are you? Huddlestone's a deep line playmaker. He's not going to be a defensive midfielder like Smallwood is. But if you're going to have a game where you're going to expect to have a lot more of the possession, you're going to play Huddlestone over like Smallwood. Smallwood would play in a game like Preston away where we need a bit more grit to win the ball back.
He'd probably work really well as a sweeper.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's not the best defensively is your only issue there. It's his strength is his passing and his ball retention. So, spraying them long diags. I think the players like Jacob Greaves and Jones who play them long diags in for the likes of Lewis Potter and Wilkes on the wing that they were doing last season, I think he could probably teach them a technique with his, that can help them a bit better, improve their passing and improve them as a player. And let's not be daft. I mean, if you watch his interview, he's here to play. He's not here to sit on the bench and be a mentor. He said himself he could quite easily have just called it quits, started doing his badges, gone into the media and whatever. But he wants to go out there and prove that he's still got it. He's probably a bit hurt that he had a year without a club. I think he probably started doubting his own ability and thinking, why don't the club want me? And, he's come back to a place where he's familiar, where he knows he's loved. And he's probably going to try and get back to his top form before he does eventually call it quits. I mean, we've got essentially a 2-year deal if we want to keep him for that long. So he's going to have a point to prove.
If it hadn't been a COVID season, I think he probably would have got a club last year at some point. I think
he'll be on bigger wages than some.
Yeah,
I mean, I assume he's taken quite a pay cut to come to us because I can't see us if we weren't willing to pay Reece Burke's wages, and we definitely weren't going to pay what we'd all assume he was on. So I'd imagine he's on probably similar to the rest of the squad.
That could say a lot about how much he wants to play as well. That he's not really bothered about how much
came across in his interview though as well. It came across in his interview like he just wanted to get down to playing, and the first thing that I heard on his interview was when he made the phone call initially to Pennock. He said, I can't remember the guy's name.
Yeah, it was Tony Pennock. Yeah,
he said the first thing I wanted to do was just prove my fitness, and then we can talk about the football afterwards. And that for itself speaks volumes, doesn't it? If he comes into the squad, then who's he replacing, Nathaniel?
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing because Smallwood is the captain, right? And even though McCann's thought, well, Huddlestone, great player, we'll sign him up. He's not going to just kick out Smallwood as captain. So I think if Smallwood gets injured for a long time, he might come in. But then I would have thought Matt Smith is the replacement. And I think they're similar sort of players. Maybe they're not a defensive midfielder that can tackle like Smallwood, but, like the long cultured pass, to the wide players, that sort of thing. Both of them can do that. So I think at some point Smith or Huddlestone will break into the starting 11 because they're similar players. It's just up to them to see which one it's going to be. But I don't think we're going to see a midfield with both of them because that would be just they're just sort of a young Tom Huddlestone and an old one basically. So one of them. Thing.
When you look at the players we've got available, we've got Doherty, Smith, Moncur, Honeyman, Huddlestone. You've got to choose 2 or 3 of them. You can't have them all.
Yeah, I think what McCann's doing is they always say if you want a successful squad, you've got to have 2 players for every position.
Yeah.
If you look at our midfield, we've got a lot of midfielders, and a lot of people say we don't need.
We're sorted in midfield.
If you look at it, you'd assume that the 2 box-to-box roles that Doherty and Honeyman did last year. So you've got Doherty and Honeyman, then you would assume like-for-like changes as Smith and Moncur. Yeah. And then in the holding midfield role, you would have Huddlestone and Smallwood. So it would depend on...
And then you've also got Andy Cannon as well.
Yeah, you've got Cannon who probably can play anywhere amongst the midfield 3. He's proven that he can score goals. He's already scored already. So
the likes of Doherty and Honeyman can have a little, and Moncare can have a little go out wide and an inside forward.
Oh no.
They can all fit into them positions and maybe do a little job for a short period in a game. But as you said, it's perfect for any manager to have two players for each position in your own system.
Yeah.
I mean, just to answer the question I asked myself in terms of Huddlestone, we mentioned about the experience he provides in the back, and for me, I saw someone post about it in terms of why wouldn't you go for Regan Slater over him? And it's a genuine question, and there's food for thought on both sides of the coin. But the way I answered at the time, and I didn't go into too much detail, was Huddlestone's more of a 1-year plan, and Regan Slater's more of a 3-year plan. However, just because it's a 1-year plan, it don't mean it's a good fix, because he can teach our players a lot of stuff during that 1 year. And then what you got to think about is, would you rather have all them youngsters that are coming on with that wealth of experience going up to the next level as to where we want to go, as opposed to having Regan Slater growing at what would be a normal pace alongside them? Me personally, I picked Tom Huddlestone.
Do you know, the way I saw it was, if you take away like the facts that where he's going to play or what role he's going to have, etc. Do you remember the 2007-8 season where we started pretty poorly and we looked like we didn't really have a direction at the beginning of the season anyway? Obviously, we all know how it ended. But when we signed JJ Kocher, everything changed. And do you know that kind of signing that I think people can underestimate the impact it has on the dressing room. Like you think of the likes of Keane Lewis Potter, who's watched Huddlestone as a fan. He's training with him now. He's playing in the same team as him. The lift it gives to the whole squad in training, the bounce, the expertise. The lad's got over 200 Premier League experiences. He's an ex-England international. You know what I mean? This is a big signing for a club like us. I think a lot of Championship clubs will be thinking, what the hell? Why is he going there?
You see, like, Huddlestone comes in and, like, those lads like Keane Lewis Potter will be excited, and as a result, vice versa. So will Huddlestone, seeing those players sort of, like, happy to see him.
You know, he can reminisce about the times. Keane Lewis Potter can talk to Huddlestone about that Sheffield United goal, about seeing him put it down on the side of the pitch. The lift it gives to the dressing room.
And then,
I mean,
can't we? And we can go back as far as the Nick Bambi moment when he came in. That was a shock for everyone. Thinking, what's Nick Bambi?
Sometimes it's more of the impact it gives to the team and the lift it gives them and the enthusiasm to go into every game more so than what they offer as a player themselves. It's a galvanising signing. It helps us think, Christ, that's a good signing, and all the lads get a pickup from it.
Exactly that. Exactly that. And I think we've actually had a really good show tonight in the aspect of we've covered some decent points with some really good views on that. And again, I'd like to close off by thanking the sponsors again, Hull City Retro, Hull Badgeman, and the Fee Factory himself. And a little plug as well to the Fan Hub. You know, if you've not used it before, get on board. Amazing app. You're actually able to check into your stadiums you go into, whether it be your home ground or your away ground, and start rocking up the mouse. You know, just how far you're travelling for your team. Each team's got their own little feed as well to show you the latest news. I don't think it pulls from the local paper, but there's other places where it does pull from, and it gives you some great insight into maybe some of the news you didn't know beforehand. So it's definitely worth a look and worth a download. So check that out. It's called Fan Hub. But thanks to everyone for tuning in. It's been brilliant. I've enjoyed my first time in the hot seat. I think Ant's going to review it and decide whether that happens again. But in the meantime, it's been a pleasure having you all. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.